I think the model for Pampered Chef is similar to what you're doing, where you're doing a demonstration and showing a product and explaining the uses and explaining the benefits and explaining how it could help you in the kitchen.
Right.
And then letting somebody make the decision if that's what they would like to purchase.
Okay.
I might say to someone in a one-on-one conversation,
right.
Would you like me to help you with that order? Or is that something you would like? But
yeah,
I don't really feel like I have to persuade anybody. And I think that's what makes me feel the most comfortable about my business. I don't feel like I'm ever talking somebody into something. I feel like I'm educating them about what a tool or a product can do for them.
Right.
And then letting them decide if that's something they want to make an investment in.
Making it simplifying recipes for the everyday cook has always been my focus. And about three or a bit more years ago, I was redoing my kitchen and I was making these meals out of no kitchen. I had a little, like a cooktop, and I had my pressure cooker. And I remember hosting my family over, and they're like, how are you making this with no appliance? And I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to take this big risk and I'm going to open Tricks in the Kitchen. And honest to God, I'm not exaggerating when I say within 15 minutes, I knew exactly what I wanted to call it. I started it up, and I still have that first picture in my blog where it's just that little cooking pan where I continued to make meal over and over for 7 months of the redoing of my kitchen with barely anything in this room.
It happens to so many of us. We have our lives all planned out, and then children. They can and should change everything. That's what happened to Susan. With undergraduate and graduate degrees in social services and community relations, Susan was moving forward and upward in her career. But as she and her husband started a family, she knew she wanted to devote as much time as she could to her children. But still, there was that pull to re-enter the workforce, and a little extra cash couldn't hurt either. So she signed up for a home-based business, worked that business, and Susan has thrived. Then there's Jonida, an immigrant from Albania. She is trained and has performed as a classical concert pianist. As you might expect, she embarked on a career of teaching piano. But like Susan, when Jonida's children arrived, she found herself in the kitchen more often, and that experience of cooking for her family led to this question. How could she teach others like her, busy wives and moms, to cook great meals without a degree in the culinary arts, without spending hours and hours trying to master complex cooking skills? And so Jonida started a blog that has grown and grown into a home-based business. Join my conversation on this episode of my remarkable podcast with Susan and Jonida as they tell their unique and interesting stories of how they created and grew their home-based businesses. We are here at the wonderful Shaker Library, and it's another episode of my remarkable podcast. I have two guests with me today who are local entrepreneurs from Shaker Heights, Jonida and Susan. Jonida, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jonida Morelli. I live in Shaker Heights. I've lived here for about 20 years.
Wow.
And I am a classically trained pianist. And I have actually taught in Shaker piano for all those 20 years. And have turned into the food industry. And I am the brains behind Tricks in the Kitchen.
That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about before we get to Susan, tell us a little bit about how you got into. That's a pivot to go from classically trained pianist and teacher to food in the kitchen.
Yes. So I was born in Albania. At the time when I was born, it was communism. So the idea in communism is to control everything, including food. And we had rations, and food was not in abundance. There was never an abundance of it. So it was trying to create a meal with only a few ingredients. And I always wanted a little more. I had the craving for something slightly better. So being and growing up in that kind of environment and moving to the States where honestly, the abundance of food, just going to the grocery store is overwhelming. And I remember the first feeling of going to the grocery store, and it was midwinter, and seeing vegetables and fruit, and it wasn't a seasonal options. It was everything. So it was quite exciting for me going to the grocery store, I have to say.
So how old were you?
I was 17 when I moved here.
And what brought you guys here?
Albania moved from communism to chaos, civil war, and as it got really bad, my father, my mom, my dad, and I moved to the States, the three of us.
Right.
And we came straight to Cleveland. We've been in Cleveland. I've been in Cleveland for 28 years. I've never left. I am a huge fan of Cleveland. And moving here, not having a lot of, money was tight. I've worked a lot of jobs. I went to college here. So it's always been that desire for good food, but also being aware of prices and being the budget. It's always been, you're an immigrant, like you can't get away from that. When you're an immigrant, you always look at the pricing. You look at how can I make a meal within this budget. The idea has always been of how can I create dishes from the pantry, from the refrigerator, and create a cohesive meal that has the nutritional value, that has, the taste, that you're delicious, and it doesn't have to be 25 ingredients. Anytime when you look at a recipe that has 15 ingredients, you have to go to the grocery store for 12 of them. That alone is intimidating. Yeah, so that's intimidating. So creating a dish with whatever you have, it's also less intimidating for a new parent, a new mom, a new dad that goes into the kitchen that has to cook for their family. And quite frankly, even when you cook something for yourself, you don't have to have a family to make a meal that you enjoy, that is healthy. Making it simplifying recipes for the everyday cook has always been my focus. And about three a bit more years ago, I was redoing my kitchen, and I was making these meals out of no kitchen. I had a cooktop, and I had my pressure cooker. And I remember hosting my family over, and they're like, how are you making this with no appliance? And I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to take this big risk, and I'm going to open Tricks in the Kitchen. And honest to God, I'm not exaggerating when I say within 15 minutes, I knew exactly what I wanted to call it. I started it up, and I still have that first picture in my blog where it's just that little cooking pan where I continued to make meal over and over for 7 months of the redoing of my kitchen with barely anything in this room. So it started there, and it's always been my dream. I remember before my oldest son was born 18 years ago, I was going to apply for the next Food Network star that came into Cleveland. I was going to wait in line, and I missed it because I didn't have a sitter for my son. It was always that idea. I'm like, I missed my chance. That could have been it. But obviously, I don't know if I would have even made it, which is okay. I've done okay. It has been good. From Tricks in the Kitchen, about a year ago, my son, again, my oldest son, I guess it's like his redemption, right? You didn't have a babysitter the first time, Mom. So the redemption came when he asked me if I would want to watch some TV with him. And I said, love to. Would you like to watch a cooking show? And I said, sure. So we sat down on the couch together, and he turned on MasterChef. And he paused it, and we were sitting in separate couches. He was on the other side. I was on the other side. And he said, Mom, you should apply for this. I think you would make it. And I was like, what? So we paused the TV on my phone, him and I on the couch, applied for the show. And 6 months later, here I was flying to Los Angeles, not really having any idea what I was doing. And my husband gave me a tracking device, like the Apple tracking in my pocket. And he's like, I want you to have it just in case.
Sure.
I was like, if you think it's going to be that dangerous, maybe I shouldn't be going, but I did. I went with my little tracker in my pocket. So I did the show. I got top 10 for the Midwest region, which I thought it was really cool. Right. I got to meet Gordon Ramsay, Joe Bastianich. I have amazing chefs all from all over the States. And it was fantastic. It was an incredible experience. And then I did get an apron, which was okay. I came back home to my very happy family that I was coming back to. I think they missed my cooking. I don't think they missed me. I think everybody just wanted to make sure they got food again. And it's been great. It's been great to be back. It lit my fire of that I really have what it takes to do this. You start a food blog, you start something on the internet, which is a million people doing the same thing. Like, why would somebody follow me?
Right.
So going to the show validated that I can do this and I really have it, but also at a level where people can relate to me. I am a mom of 3 kids. I am busy. I teach piano still, and I'm still trying to balance that work life and blogging and doing this Instagram, the social media part of it, where I expose myself, but in the most real and truly authentic way so the person can relate. You have to be able to relate if you're following someone, whether it's the good days, the bad days, whether I'm doing takeout some days because it's the best I can do, or I am making a meal that's quite a risk. When you make a little extravagant meal, you're making seafood. That seems to be the area where people are the most intimidated in. But it's about resonating to the everyday cook. And it's about creating a meal for your family that does not have to be super complicated, simplified with a few ingredients, and also giving confidence to the new cook, whether you are a college kid. I have my nieces who follow me, and they always text me, and they call me Trixie. They're like, Trixie, what should I do with this? It's actually really exciting for me when I get those messages because they're like, what can I do? Because they're eager to learn.
Sure.
To know that you are influencing these young people to cook more and not so much go out and do takeout. That to me is very valuable. Whether it is, I am not a humongous social media star, but I'm very content with the numbers I have because you really want to follow me if you're following me. And it's not just to scroll up. And it's been a good ride, I have to say.
That's marvelous. That's marvelous. Want to come back to you in a minute when we talk. But so, Susan, tell us a little bit about how you got into, first of all, tell us what you do and then your journey to get there.
My name's Susan Warshay. And I am a senior team director with Pampered Chef.
Okay.
I am a native Clevelander. I was born in the Cleveland area. I grew up in Shaker. I'm a graduate of Shaker Heights High School.
Wow.
And I actually have 3 kids who are also graduates of Shaker Heights High School.
Oh, my gosh.
But I went away to school at University of Michigan. Yes, I knew you were going to say that. But I worked for a couple years, and then I worked in Dayton, Ohio, and then I came back here to get my master's at Case.
Okay.
Got a master's at the Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences.
Okay.
And I was working in community relations and fundraising, and then my husband and I decided it was time to start a family. And when my kids were born, I realized that I loved the idea of being a stay-at-home mom. And I left my job. I decided that I would try and find some part-time things to do, but the part-time things didn't really fit my schedule exactly. I didn't necessarily have childcare at the time that the part-time job needed me. Figured I wasn't going to be doing anything until my kids were in school, and then I really stumbled across Pampered Chef. I was invited to a Pampered Chef in-home cooking demonstration, an in-home party, as we call them, and I went and I had fun. And shortly after that, my husband was doing our taxes. And he looked at me and he said, Susan, you know that part-time job you had? It really helped. So I started thinking, okay, what can I do where I can keep my family, my central focus,
right,
and at the same time earn an income?
Right.
And I remembered that Pampered Chef party.
Right.
And I thought, well, that looked fun and it looked pretty easy. Maybe I should try that. So I looked into it. And I really had nothing to lose. It was a very low startup fee. You didn't have to carry any inventory, no deliveries. I figured, okay, why not? I'll give it a try. It was not anything I had ever done before. I did not have a background in sales or marketing or anything like that, no business experience. But I jumped in and it just quickly blossomed into a thriving business.
Wow.
And I've been with Pampered Chef for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
So what I do with Pampered Chef is I help people get homemade healthy meals on the table fast by teaching them tricks and tips and how to use our tools. And I do sell our products through my own personal website. I sell them through the parties, which used to be mostly in-home parties, but are now post-pandemic, largely virtual. And I help other people start their businesses too. So I can help people with the tools they need, with getting meals on the table fast for their family. I can help them with the income they need by helping them start their own business. So there's lots of different levels to my business.
That's interesting. So as I've listened to both of you, just a couple of observations. One is you, Susan, the turn from a career standpoint from what you were doing to what you are doing was motivated by an understandable desire to generate some extra income. We all have that. Although I will have to tell you that when my wife and I moved to Shaker about a little over 3 years ago. I noticed there were a lot of what I call single income families. And it was shocking because the last time I remember experiencing that was in the 80s when I lived in Dallas. And then as the cost of living rose and as people wanted to raise their standard of living, they started having dual income families. But to one of the points that you made, although this wasn't a hard thing, but it was important, is that you wanted a way to generate income and still keep your family as a focus.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult to do if you go get what I call a standard 9-to-5 job. That's just very hard because you've got to work on the rhythm of your employer.
Yeah.
As opposed to your own, right? Very interesting how, you vectored over, and also props to you for taking the risk. I know, as you said, and we talked about this before the show, Pampered Chef doesn't require any big inventory commitment. You're not carrying inventory. This is not a multi-level marketing scheme and all that kind of stuff. So it was a low cost of entry. However, you can't generate money if you're not selling, which is the way it's supposed to be. It's a sales job, right?
Absolutely.
Ultimately, right?
Absolutely. You have to work your business.
You have to work your business, absolutely. And I've spent my entire career as either business development, ultimately entrepreneur, CEO, and I tell people shamelessly, I'm a peddler. I get it. I'm cool with that. But part of it is you're only successful if you've identified a real need that somebody has.
And I think that's where there's a little misconception about sales in general. Sales is helping people meet their needs.
Correct.
It's not trying to convince them to get something that they don't need.
That they don't
won't
need.
Use.
That's correct.
And I think if you take that seriously, you can be very successful at what you do.
That's exactly right. No, that's exactly right. And then listening to you, Jonida.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Another amazing story. One, my mother was an immigrant. She came here from war-torn Europe through Ellis Island in 1948. Her country was Yugoslavia, her country of origin. She was captured by the Gestapo or the SS and was forced to work in a slave labor camp for about 4 years. When she came here in 1948, similar experiences as you, although hers was from the deprivation of war, was, oh my gosh, I can't believe the plenty in America, in the grocery stores and just everywhere. That this is a very prosperous country. I love that you came to Cleveland because although I'm relatively new to the city, one of the things that to me makes me proud as a sort of a new resident of this area is how many immigrants found their way to this city, through the St. Lawrence Riverway and Lake Erie and then boom, the docks and then worked. And yeah, I think it makes for a wonderful city from many points of view. I love that you have brought what I want to call my term, that sort of scrappy perspective to the kitchen of, let me make this happen. You don't need everything copper pots and 3 stoves and warmers and all that. No, you can do a phenomenal job with minimal. And as you were describing your kitchen while it was being remodeled, I was saying, that reminds me of the kitchen we have in our home, because we have a 106-year-old home and the kitchen has not been remodeled. My wife calls it a one-person kitchen. She looks at me when she says that, Legally. But so when you started developing, because the other thing that's interesting is, like Susan, you pivoted from your background and training as a classical pianist into, was that at all intimidating or difficult for you? Did you ever worry about whether people will take you seriously or that you had any real value to add?
I'm really good at using my hands. You're going from
as a pianist.
Yes, from piano to chopping with a knife. I performed a lot in Albania since I was a kid. It was always part of the, as I call it, the communist propaganda on the newspaper, TV, and all this. And then being a concert pianist, your whole job is to perform. Am I intimidated? No, not really. And I think you got to take this as, this is who I am. You don't have to like it. You don't have to follow me. And I am always going to be real and who I am. So I'm not really intimidated, because even if there's times that I make mistakes, and like just the other day I was trying to shoot a video and my accent came through. And it's pretty funny when you notice your own accent. People usually don't hear their own accents. And I said rotisserie chicken. I'm like, rotisserie. I'm like, so I catch myself, but I'm pretty open about it. I'm like, yeah, I do have an accent. I was born in another country. I did learn language, English when I came here. I didn't know any English. And, I'm not really intimidated, because I think it just makes you more human when I am who I am. And even when you're vulnerable and you are who you are. I think people relate to just being normal, and being an everyday person instead of going up there and looking all put together all the time. I really don't. It's just me shooting up whatever I'm wearing. Have my video. I'm cooking, and this is the most important thing about my blog and about Tricks in the Kitchen on Instagram. Everything I make is for my family.
Right.
So every step I'm doing, that meal is going to be my family dinner.
Wow.
So it's not like I'm shooting up a video here. I have it set up and I have the lighting and everything. No, it's basically me. If a dinner is going to take 45 minutes to make, I need to make sure that I get as much footage of that. And then the biggest fight in my house at dinner is who gets the Trixie plate. It's hysterical because they all fight over because it's got the best presentation and I make sure that it looks pretty and clean. And everyone wants the Trixie plate. And because it's their dinner, it's their meal. So it's my everyday life. So I do not have any special setup or any lighting or it's usually through my phone. So I am the everyday cook. I am the everyday mom at home cooking, and I'm sharing that with everybody else.
Sounds like you're the Julia Child for the rest of them.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's a high honor. Those are some big shoes to fill, literally and probably figuratively too.
Susan, when you pivoted from your sort of educational background and your previous career was it sort of the social services area, correct? Yeah. Okay. When you move from that into sales, because sales, yes, you're only successful if you are able to identify a need and solve a problem that somebody actually has, right? And then say, I have a solution for you that is, meets your budget, et cetera, et cetera. There still is an element of persuasion. You still have to call the question. You still have to ask, can I have your business? That's sale, which fine. Did you ever find that difficult coming from the background, or did it just come naturally to you?
I guess I don't think of it as persuasion.
Okay.
I think I look at it more that I am asking questions to try and find out what somebody's need is, and then presenting them with a solution that they can then decide if that's the solution they want to choose.
So you don't call the question to say, would you like this? Would you like to buy this? It's okay if you say no. I'm just curious.
Not in that form.
So what form do you take?
I think the model for Pampered Chef is similar to what you're doing, where you're doing a demonstration and showing a product and explaining the uses and explaining the benefits and explaining how it could help you in the kitchen.
Right.
And then letting somebody make the decision if that's what they would like to purchase.
Okay.
I might say to someone in a one-on-one conversation, would you like me to help you with that order? Or is that something you would like? But
yeah.
I don't really feel like I have to persuade anybody. And I think that's what makes me feel the most comfortable about my business. I don't feel like I'm ever talking somebody into something. I feel like I'm educating them about what a tool or a product can do for them.
Right.
And then letting them decide if that's something they want to make an investment in.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, but because you're in sales, you'll welcome this. A lot of people, when they consider buying tools for their kitchen, depending on their income level, they may be going to Sur La Table, they may be going to Williams-Sonoma, or they may be going to Amazon, which seems to dominate a lot of that these days, right? What are the key things that differentiate the products that you offer through Pampered Chef versus what I call those other channels of distribution? Because that's really what they are. What are the differences?
First of all, Pampered Chef products are made for Pampered Chef. They're designed by our product designers. They are developed and manufactured by our manufacturers. They are top quality tools.
Okay.
And Pampered Chef tries to create tools which have a unique element to them, so they're not exactly the same as something you would find online or in one of those other stores.
Okay.
The second thing, in addition to the quality, is the customer service. Pampered Chef stands behind their products with guarantees, but I always tell people, I come with your products too.
Right.
So you have somebody you can reach out to for questions, for tips, for help, or if there's a problem. So I think the combination of quality and the personal service is what really makes our products stand out.
Are they price competitive? Does Pepper Chef seek to compete on price?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm not the one who sets the prices, so I
No, I
can't tell
understand
you
that.
exactly how that happens. But I think when you look at our tools, the quality of our tools and the unique features of our tools and compare them to tools with similar quality and similar features, we compare in terms of price. And of course, the benefit with Pampered Chef is that you can always get our products discounted and free. When you host what we call a party, whether it's a virtual party or an in-home party, as a host, you have the opportunity to earn free products.
Right.
There's the opportunity to buy something at full price, or there's always the opportunity to get it discounted.
Okay. Very interesting.
And I just want to go back to what you said before
Sure.
about sales. I really don't always think of myself in a sales business. I think of myself in a relationship building business.
Right.
I'm making connections with customers
Right.
who then I can help with their problems, issues, questions, and their needs. So I think of it more as a relationship building business rather than a sales business.
The reason I talk about it being a sales business is because you could build relationships and never generate income.
That's true.
Which I do in much of my life. I build relationships with people with no interest in monetizing that relationship. There's no transactional element to it. Look, I'm here interviewing the two of you. This is pro bono. I'm not generating any money. I'm doing it purely because I want to do it, because I think it's good for the community, good for you guys, et cetera. I'm building a relationship, but there's no pecuniary interest. There's no money flow. In your business, the relationship building is key to winning trust from people, which is key. And also having a long-term relationship with them, right? So it's not buy this and then you disappear, right? But at the end of the day, it is a business, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which is a good thing, right? Because that's how people like what brought you into it can generate additional income. And we all need income. That's the bottom line, unless we're trust fund babies or something, TFBs. I mean, we need income. So props to you. And that's the other thing, is that I met you guys through the Shaker home-based businesses, which is a marvelous thing because these are businesses, right, that are thriving here in Shaker. So Trixie, when you think about your business, when we were talking earlier, you said, and now that I've heard a little bit of your story, it's really interesting. Being a concert pianist in Albania and being to be on stage as a part of the whole regimen, right, of take a piano and then excelling and then,
it works. Like, right, they're building the next big stars, musicians.
Right. Okay. So you have that, and I could tell even in today's conversation, you have that confidence and that presence of, fine. And when we were talking earlier, you said, I would like to be on TV as a chef to share my message and teach others what I'm doing. What sort of steps are you taking? Because I know you're taking steps to make that a reality. Tell us.
Yeah.
And as people are listening, how they maybe can be helpful.
It's a big, I say this, the ocean is quite large.
Yes.
And there are many fish, and everybody is all trying for the same position, is all trying for this. So I'm consistently applying for shows. I do have some ideas that I want to create my own show, which I think I've even created and I've written it down how I want it to go. And it's about relating and connecting with the everyday cook at home.
Right.
So it's challenging, I have to say, because there's so many people who are going for the same job. But it's also, for me, is I hope somebody can see me for who I am and can see that people could relate to me. And I think they do relate to me because, again, it's just an everyday cook. I don't even want to consider myself a chef. And to be honest with you, it's because it's not fair to those guys, to the chefs who have gone this serious training and have earned their title.
Right.
I am a home cook. I might be the chef at the Morelli household. Okay.
You are the chef at the Morelli household.
Right. I'm the chef in the five household, but I don't want to ever come across and say I'm a chef because I did not get the training. I did not get the certificate. The people put hours, endless hours to earn that. So I never want to take that from anyone who is a chef. I am a home cook. I am an everyday home cook that is trying to relate to the other home cook at home and give them that confidence to be in the kitchen and confidence in themselves that they can create something with just a few ingredients.
It's wonderful to hear. This just so happens to relate to something personal in my life. I have a daughter-in-law who is a chef. Before she became a chef, she grew up on a ranch in southern New Mexico and competed in rodeos and was a champion roper.
That's
right?
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. All of you guys come from one place, go to another. Okay. Her name is Kathleen. And then Kat became injured. She was thrown by a couple of horses and could no longer compete in rodeos, right? So what do you do, right? She went to the Culinary Institute of America.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, got her certification. And today, she is the executive chef of a restaurant that she co-owns.
That's fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, having said that, whenever I go to their place, she and her wife's place, whenever I go to their place and sit down, I don't ever think about cooking. To your point, this is a chef.
Absolutely.
It is unbelievable. Everything she does at home, at the restaurant is unbelievable. I could never look at Kat and go, can you teach me how to make that? She does, and she has before. Oh, Mark, it's simple. Right. But that's not where I am. I sound like I would be a Trixie disciple.
Yes. You know what? She has earned that title, and she has put in a lot of hours and work.
Oh, yeah.
And even for me, I love going to a restaurant. I would love to go to her restaurant and enjoy her meal, and not really to come home and try to make it, but just to sit there and savor every ounce of effort that she put in to create that dish, because I also respect someone who has done that. I don't ever, unless I go to culinary school, which is a dream of mine, but I would love to go to Le Cordon Bleu and Friends.
There you go.
But so I get people, there's so many incredible chefs. So I never want to ever give the idea that I'm a chef. I'm a home cook, and I own that. I'm own that pride. I'm proud about that. And one day when I get my certificate, I will change my name to chef.
And that's a lot to be proud of.
I know. Right. That's true. Thank you. Yes, it is true. But it's easy with the social media world and people calling themselves chef without having the hours of training that it takes to get
I totally agree, because people will say things to me and I will tell them, no, I'm not a chef. And I think it's funny sometimes because people will ask me questions, culinary questions, and I think, why do they think I know anything? I've certainly learned a lot,
right, I'm sure,
through my business. And sometimes I surprise myself when I'm like, oh, because I do know things, but it's not because I'm a chef. It's not because I'm a trained chef, because just like you, I'm not.
Right.
So we're all three of us who are living in Shaker. That's how we've become acquainted. Talk a little bit about what it's been like for you and you've been doing this, 28 years?
23.
23 years. And you've been doing it a few years as well.
Yes, I've been in Shaker for 20 years. And the magic about Shaker and being an immigrant, leaving your house. And my husband actually makes fun of me about this in a very endearing way, that Shaker is home for me. I left my home. I was 17. I left my home. I went to college in Cleveland. I went to Baldwin Wallace with a piano performance major in international business, and then started teaching in Shaker in 1999. And then I moved here, but it's my home. I have the community that Shaker and the support that I have from this town. I'm super lucky. I always say this. I'm super lucky that I have built the support system that I have in this town. And Shaker has been my biggest fan, whether it's been my piano teaching business or whether it's Tricks in the Kitchen, and being featured in the Life magazine at Shaker for me. Like, okay, there was a Cleveland.com magazine, there was a Plain Dealer, which is exciting, right? Oh, you are on the paper. But I have to say, being featured in the Life magazine in Shaker, in my community, having my people respect and support meant the world to me.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big fan of Shaker Heights.
That's wonderful. Susan?
I am definitely a fan of Shaker Heights. I've lived here pretty much all my life. This is where I chose to raise my family. And I love the values in the community. I love the diversity in the community. I think it's a great place to live, and it is a great place to work. Being able to work out of my home, it's very easy in Shaker. It's, quiet neighborhoods. You have access to what you need for your business.
Yep.
And I think there's an appreciation in Shaker of people who do have their own businesses and a respect for people who are doing things that are a little different, a little different from the mainstream.
I think in a world, and the pandemic changed so many things for us as people, but one of them is, work from home. Now, my wife and I have been business partners, consulting partners since 2000, and we've always chosen to have home offices. So we've always worked from home, even though we'll be at separate offices, we'll text each other. That's crazy. Rather than walk down the hall and go, buddy. But working from home has become a thing. And I can't think of a better place to work from home than Shaker Heights.
I agree.
From many points of view. And you've talked about the supportive community. The old homes are actually marvelous, depending on the one you get. The rooms may be small, but hey, it's easy to say, that's an office and that's an office, and boom, you got it, right? Which is wonderful. People are supportive here. At least that's been my experience. So that's really marvelous. So if you were to, somebody listening to this and use this as an opportunity to reach out to people, Susan, people listening to this, if they said, I want to learn more, we're going to have links and all that stuff in the show notes, but why should someone consider a home-based business like yours, like Pampered Chef? Why? Why should they do that?
I think there's a lot of reasons.
Okay.
The first one is very low startup cost.
Right.
Depending on the business, for example, you can start a Pampered Chef business for as little as $25.
Okay.
There's a ton of support from the company themselves, whether it's marketing materials or webinars and training. But when you're in a direct selling business, you also have support from the person who brought you into the business, from your upline or your director. And you end up with a network of people who are all there to help you be successful in your business. I think it's a great opportunity to learn. There are things that I do now that I never knew a thing about when I was practicing doing fundraising or working in community relations. And it's really a chance to explore and build upon your passions.
Wonderful. Trixie, why should somebody follow you?
Before I say that, I also want to talk a little bit about Pampered Chef, because I think the element of trust comes with the name Pampered Chef. It's been around for so long. I remember the parties I've been to. If you're a home cook in the United States, you have potentially been to a Pampered Chef party. So there's the trust that comes in with having tools that your mom used and potentially your grandma used. So you guys have that. Like, I still, as I said before, I still have my favorite can opener from my last Pampered Chef party. Was probably like 15, 16 years ago. I'm a fan of your work and I'm a fan of your company.
So glad.
Yeah. So if you want to follow Tricks in the Kitchen, please do. And if you want to learn a bit about how to make easy meals, your everyday meal, and you want to learn about tricks on how to utilize your time in the kitchen more efficiently. My kids say that I overuse the word utilize. I'm like, you have to utilize your time. You have to be conscious of how much time you have, because in the world of like today's world, time is money. I got to go to the next thing. I got to pick up a kid from school.
Right.
I got to make dinner. I got to teach. I got to do a million things. So it's just about making a delicious meal with only a few ingredients, with whatever you have, and learning confidence about your time in the kitchen, and also how to be more efficient in the kitchen.
Wonderful.
And I just want to add that I am a total fan of everything I've heard that you do. I think the mission of Pampered Chef, yes, we are about sales and we are selling those products. Sure. The mission is to help people learn to get those meals on the table and do it quickly and not feel overwhelmed by the idea of cooking or getting something healthy on the table for their family. So I think it's wonderful that you're doing what you're doing too. And
I know,
I'm
it's
so
fun
glad
to
we've had this opportunity to connect.
It's awesome.
I can't wait to follow you.
I know, that's awesome.
That's wonderful. Both of you, thank you for being on the show today. Appreciate it very much. And as I said, there will be in the show notes links to how people can follow you, reach out and connect with you. And I would encourage interested people to do exactly that.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Good. You've been listening to my Remarkable podcast. For more episodes like this, as well as premium content, visit my site, markgood.substack.com.
When your love's strong, when your love it will break